There's this weird paradox we all kind of live with. You have play, right?
Right.
Which is recess, or uh, Saturday morning cartoons, or losing an entire weekend to a game like Elden Ring.
Right. And then you have learning.
Exactly. The classroom, the textbook, all the serious work of being a productive human. We treat them like they're matter and antimatter.
Well, if they touch, something's gone horribly wrong.
Which is so strange because, biologically, play is the #1 way mammals learn.
It is. But our educational systems have spent, 2 centuries building this massive wall between the two?
Well, today we are taking a sledgehammer to that wall. We're doing a deep dive into the book Apprendre avec les serious games, or Learning with Serious Games.
And this isn't just another buzzword session about gamification.
Thank goodness.
We're not talking about adding badges to your expense reports. This book is about the cake, not the icing. It's a really rigorous look at what happens when the mechanics of video games...
The loops, the rules, the feedback.
Exactly. When those are applied to utilitarian goals. And we're talking about everything from military recruitment to seriously curing diseases.
And what I like is that the authors are not just cheerleaders. They are brutally honest about where this stuff fails.
Yeah.
They get right into the chocolate-covered broccoli problem, which explains why so many educational games from the 90s were just awful.
They were so painful. But to get why, we have to start with how the authors define a serious game. They have this really specific equation.
Right. It's serious game equals a utilitarian scenario plus a video game.
Exactly. And it seems simple, but that utilitarian part is doing a ton of work.
It's a whole point.
It is. It shifts the entire intention. A commercial game, its intention is to entertain you. A serious game, the intention is to teach or inform or train. But the video game part is just as critical.
It has to actually be a game.
It has to be a game, not just a quiz with some sound effects.
And that brings us right back to the chocolate-covered broccoli.
The edutainment disaster. I think we all have a repressed memory of playing something like Math Blaster.
Oh, I definitely do. The authors mention a study by Catherine Kellner on games like Technocity, and the design was what they call extrinsic.
So you do the work first, you solve the math problem.
And then, as a reward, you get to play some totally unrelated minigame for like 30 seconds.
The game was the bribe. It was eat your broccoli and then you can have a tiny square of chocolate.
And kids are smart. They figured it out immediately.
Instantly. Kellner found that students would just rush through the educational part, guessing, cheating.
Anything to get it over with.
Just to get to the fun part. They completely separated the two in their minds.
So what they learned was how to game the system, not the actual material.
Precisely. And the book contrasts this with intrinsic design.
Which sounds much, much harder to pull off.
It is, but it's way more effective. Intrinsic design means the learning is the mechanic. You literally cannot win the game without getting the concept.
And the example they use is Stop Disasters, that UN game.
Yeah, I remember that one. You have to save a village from a tsunami or something.
Right. And you don't save it by answering a quiz question about tsunamis. You save it by actually building defenses.
You have to plant mangroves along the coast to break the wave energy.
And if you don't understand the physics of why that works, or you put them in the wrong place...
Your village is gone, the feedback loop is immediate, the wave hits, the houses get wiped out, and you think, okay, my strategy was wrong. The failure teaches you.
You aren't doing the learning to get to the game.
The learning is the game.
Okay, so the book does this great job of kind of mapping this whole world. They use what they call the GPS model.
Gameplay, purpose, and sector.
It's a super helpful framework because serious games is such a broad category. It's everything from a flight simulator to political satire.
So let's break that down. G is for gameplay, and this is where they make a distinction that always starts an argument.
The difference between a game and a toy.
Exactly. So I get stuck on this because to me, SimCity is a game, but under their definition, it's not.
Technically, no. They'd call SimCity a toy.
But I've definitely gone bankrupt in SimCity. It felt a lot like I lost.
Sure, but the game itself didn't pop up a screen that said, game over, you lose. You set your own goals.
Right. Maybe your goal was a perfect city, or maybe it was just to unleash Godzilla.
Whereas a game, in this academic sense, has explicit rules and a defined win or lose state, like chess or Super Mario.
And a toy is more of an open-ended system you just play with.
And that distinction really matters because it changes how you design the learning experience.
Yeah, if you want someone to explore a system, a toy is probably better. If you want them to master a skill, you need a game.
Okay, so then you have P for purpose. What is the game trying to do?
Is it for training? Is it broadcasting a message? Or is it persuasive?
And that persuasive category, that's where we find one of the most successful and controversial examples ever, America's Army.
Released back in 2002 and fully funded by the U.S. government.
Yeah, this wasn't some cheap educational CD-ROM. This was a AAA quality shooter.
And it was free.
Right, released for free when other games were $50. And it completely changed the landscape. It wasn't just about training soldiers, it was a recruitment tool.
It's an advert game on a massive scale. The utilitarian goal is to sell the brand and the values of the U.S. Army.
So it simulates the rules of engagement, teamwork, hierarchy.
And by playing it, you are literally inhabiting the ideology of that institution. It's incredibly effective persuasion because it's experiential. It's not a billboard.
It makes you feel competent inside that military framework before you've even thought about signing up.
Exactly. Then on the complete flip side, you have the health sector, and the book talks about a game called Remission.
This one is so clever. It's a shooter game for kids and teens with cancer.
You pilot a tiny nanobot inside a human body.
And instead of shooting aliens, you're shooting leukemia cells.
You're blasting cancer cells, you're managing infections. But here's the genius mechanic. To keep your weapon powered up, you have to manage your energy.
And that corresponds to taking your real-life chemotherapy and antibiotics.
Yes. It visualizes the treatment. It gives agency back to the patient. A kid with cancer so often feels like things are just being done to them. This game lets them fight back.
And the data actually backed it up.
It did. Patients who played Remission had a much higher adherence to their medication protocols. They could see the why.
Then there's the purpose that just completely blew my mind. Data exchange. Basically crowdsourcing science. We have to talk about Foldit.
This is the ultimate humans versus machines story. So scientists have this huge problem with protein folding.
Right, figuring out the 3D structure of a protein is key for designing drugs, but the number of possible shapes is, like, astronomical.
Computers are okay at it, but they get stuck. They can't make intuitive leaps.
So researchers at the University of Washington just turned it into a puzzle game.
Yep. You pull and twist these digital shapes to get the highest score, which represents the most stable energy state.
And the players, who were mostly not biologists, solved a puzzle that had stumped the experts for over a decade.
An AIDS-related enzyme. Scientists were stuck on its structure for 15 years.
And the Foldit. Players solved it in 10 days.
10 days? It just highlights what the human brain is so good at, that kind of innate spatial reasoning and pattern recognition.
The game was just an interface to harness all that wasted cognitive surplus.
It reframes the player from being a consumer to a contributor.
Okay, one last quick example from the toy category that the book uses is September 12th.
Ah, the news game. It's
Yeah.
devastatingly simple.
You look down on a Middle Eastern village, there are terrorists walking around, and there are civilians. You have a missile launcher.
And the delay on the missile is agonizing. The blast radius is huge.
So you try to snipe a terrorist, but you almost always kill civilians too.
And the core mechanic is just brutal. When civilians die, the other villagers mourn them, and then they transform into new terrorists.
So the more you fire, the more enemies you create.
The only way to win is not to play, not to fire. It uses the mechanics of a video game to critique the mechanics of the war on terror.
It's an argument you have to play to really understand.
Right. Reading violence begets violence is a cliche. Feeling the frustration of that loop. That's a lesson.
This leads us right into the classroom. And the book makes a really important distinction here between serious games made from scratch, like Foldit,
And serious gaming,
or diverting.
which is when you take a commercial game like Angry Birds or World of Warcraft and you basically hijack it for educational purposes.
I love the Angry Birds example. It's so simple. Physics teachers realized that instead of a worksheet with a drawing of a cannonball,
They could just have kids load up Angry Birds.
and the game becomes a laboratory. Students use software to track the bird's flight path. They plot the parabola.
They calculate the gravity of the Angry Birds world to see if it matches Earth's. They aren't just playing, they're reverse engineering the game's reality.
And then, of course, there's the heavy hitter, World of Warcraft.
The Walwyn School Project.
This one is fascinating because it's not just using the game world, it's using the social structure.
Right. In WoW you have guilds. And to run a successful guild, you need organization, leadership, conflict resolution.
I can personally testify that organizing a 40-person raid requires more project management skills than most corporate jobs I've had.
That is exactly what they tapped into. They had at-risk students form a guild.
And to participate, they had to do things like write journals for their characters,
Creative writing,
calculate the stats of their gear,
math,
and lead raids.
collaboration, and leadership. The utilitarian scenario was completely hidden inside their desire to just be a better player.
And the data backs it up. The book cites this huge project in Italy, the Dante project.
10,000 students.
And the groups that used these kinds of games scored, on average, 2 points higher in math and 3.5 points higher in Italian than the control groups.
So it works. The data's there. But the book digs into why it works, and the mechanism that really stands out is how it changes trial and error.
The cost of failure.
Exactly. In a normal classroom, failure is penalized. A red mark on a test is a bad thing. It creates anxiety.
But in a game, failure is just information. You die, you respawn, you try a different path.
It's low stakes. It's safe. They mention a geology game, Chronocoup, where students have to figure out the history of rock layers.
They can make a hypothesis, test it, and if it's wrong, the game just instantly resets.
You can iterate 20 times in 10 minutes. You can't do that with a paper test.
It also allows for differentiation, which is that classroom buzzword for letting everyone move at their own speed.
Right. A lecture moves at one speed. If you're bored, you check out. If you're lost, you give up.
In a game, the advanced kid can just speed ahead to level 10.
While another student who needs more practice can just grind on level 3 until they get it, no one's holding anyone back.
But, and this is the big pivot, the book is not just a love letter to gaming. It spends a huge amount of time on the limits.
Because it doesn't always work.
No. And the biggest pitfall is something called transfer.
Just because you master the game doesn't mean you've mastered the concept.
They bring up that study on the game Zombie Division.
Oh, it's a classic cautionary tale.
Yeah.
The game was designed to teach arithmetic. Kids used different attacks based on numbers to kill zombies, and the kids got really, really good at killing zombies.
But when they were tested on the math later,
nothing.
They didn't realize they were doing math.
They just treated the numbers as visual symbols, patterns to memorize to beat the boss. They never built the bridge between the game mechanic and the abstract concept.
Which brings us to the most important person in this whole story. And it's not the game developer.
It's the teacher.
The authors are so clear about this. The technology is not the teacher. The game is just a stimulus. The real learning happens in the debriefing.
The debriefing is what happens after the screens go dark.
Exactly. If you just let kids play Civilization for an hour and send them to lunch, all they've learned is how to play Civilization.
But if you stop the game and ask, okay, why did your economy collapse when you raised taxes? What historical parallel does that have? That's what creates the bridge.
The book even uses a term from theater for this, distanciation.
Yeah, it's from Bertolt Brecht, the V effect.
Mm-hmm.
Brecht wanted his audience to remember they were watching a play so they would think critically about the message.
Instead of just getting lost in the story, he didn't want you to be immersed. He wanted you to be analytical.
Exactly. And the authors say teachers need to do the same thing. They need to intentionally break the game's immersion, create a glitch in the flow to make the students step back and analyze what's happening.
There's a great pop culture example of this in the book from Metal Gear Solid.
Hideo Kojima is the master of this stuff. There's a scene where a character tells you to call a radio frequency, but he doesn't tell you the number.
He just says the number's on the back of the CD case.
And he means the actual plastic CD case sitting in your living room.
It totally jars you. You stop being the super spy, Solid Snake, and you become a person holding a piece of plastic.
That moment of disconnection is where the critical thinking happens. A teacher using America's Army has to create that moment. They have to say, stop. Why does the game make you follow these rules? Who paid for this game? What are they not showing you?
Without that, it's just propaganda.
But with the teacher, it's media literacy.
That's the core takeaway. The game moves from being this utopia, this magic bullet that will fix education, to being an ideology.
Just another tool, like a blackboard or a textbook. Powerful, but not magic.
The book wraps up with this idea I really liked, the concept of frontier objects.
A shared myth that bridges different social groups, and their perfect example is the Oregon Trail.
You have died of dysentery.
It's a generational password. It bridged the world of a classroom with the world in the living room. It gave an entire generation a shared language about history, about resource management, and about pure frustration.
And the author suggests that for serious games to really mature, they need to become those kinds of cultural touchstones.
Things we all recognize and have a shared understanding of.
It really brings up the question of literacy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We teach kids to read books. We teach them to analyze films. Maybe it's time we start treating playing as a literacy that's just as fundamental.
I think we have to. The systems that run our world economics, the climate, politics, they're all complex interacting systems. And games are the native medium for understanding complex systems.
So if we want to understand the world,
We might just have to play it first.
I think I'm going to go reinstall SimCity and see if I can actually win this time.
Just watch out for the Godzilla attack.
Always. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.